excited for an impromptu reading vlog? Because I know I am. I've been missing filming reading vlogs. I really love taking you along on my journey of reading certain books, and I really enjoy watching reading vlogs as well. So I was about to take a little self-care time with a nice cup of tea or coffee and read one of the books that I'm super duper excited for, and thought, hey, there's a few books that have already come out in 2022 that I am so excited to read, and I know you probably are too, and also are wondering whether they're worth it and whether the hype is just that, it's hype, or whether these are great pieces of literature that you should be spending your money on, particularly when they're still in hardback form, which most of these are. So why don't we film a reading vlog where I read some of my most anticipated releases of 2022 that have come out so far this year, and tell you what I think of them. Then maybe if you enjoy this video, I can do it again in the summer when a few more of my most anticipated books have come out. So the one I'm thinking I'm about to sit down and chill and read right now is the most recent one to make its way into my book collection, and that is Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Su Lin Tan. So the cover was the initial reason I was drawn to this online, but then I read the blurb and knew I was going to have to check it out at some point. So it'd been sitting on my wish list for a little while, and I recently popped in to Waterstones and decided to treat myself. There was £2 off the hardback, and it is truly gorgeous, and sometimes you just need a gorgeous book on your bookcase. I'm not sure if there's any details underneath. No, well, it is lovely green though. So yeah, everything about this is really, really stunning. It's published by Harper Voyager. And I read the first few pages whilst I was sitting in the Waterstones cafe that very same day, and was immediately drawn into the writing. Like, the writing thus far matches the cover in beauty and style. So I'm very excited for this, and I want to just, maybe spend an hour sitting, chilling in my reading chair with my book and a cup of coffee, enjoying the process of reading. So I think that's what I'm going to do. This is specifically about, well, the Daughter of the Moon Goddess. It's based on a Chinese folk tale, which I have come across before, about an archer and his wife who becomes the moon goddess. So the archer does something which he is gifted then by the gods, a potion of immortality, but he chooses not to drink it, and his wife instead secretly drinks it and is punished because of that. But in this situation, the wife was actually pregnant, and the reason that she drank the potion was to save her and the baby's life because she was becoming very, very sick with the pregnancy. But she was still punished, and she is now like the immortal moon goddess, and she lives in this palace with her daughter, but nobody knows that her daughter exists. So when the celestial emperor comes visiting, suspecting that the moon goddess may be hiding something or someone in her palace, the daughter has to flee, and it's about her journey to be reunited with her mother and to discover her own magic and her place in the world. So yeah, I am really, really looking forward to this. But just to give you an idea of what else we might be reading in this video, I brought some of the other books that came out in the first sort of quarter of 2022 that I'm really excited about. First up is Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher. This is a fantastical horror novel about a princess who is given three quite dark and brutal tasks to undertake in order to be gifted with the power to kill a prince, because her sister is married to the prince who is abusive, and she doesn't know how to save her sister. The only way she can think is to seek out the help of someone with magic, and that is what leads her on to completing or trying to complete these tasks. I love T. Kingfisher's horror, and I love their fairy tale retelling, so I think this is going to be a really good combination of those two things. I also picked up on the same day as Daughter of the Moon Goddess this book, which is It Ends at Midnight by Harriet Tice, which is the latest thriller novel by Harriet Tice, who wrote Blood Orange. She's written some other books, but Blood Orange is probably her most popular, and is the one that I've read and really, really enjoyed. So when I saw this had £4 off and was signed by the author, I thought, hey ho, let's give it a shot. Plus, the blurb sounds phenomenal. It's New Year's Eve, and the stage is set for a lavish party in one of Edinburgh's best postcodes. So I also love that it's set in my home city, because that always makes it extra atmospheric and extra immersive for me. It's a moment for old friends to set the past to rights and move on. The night sky is alive with fireworks and the champagne is flowing, but the celebration fails to materialise because someone at this party is going to die tonight. Midnight approaches and the countdown begins, but it seems one of the guests doesn't want a resolution. they want revenge. In terms of proofs, I do actually have this one, which is Pandora by Susan Stokes Chapman, and I've had the proof for a few months now. It came out in January, but I still haven't read it, although I'm so excited to, because this is a reimagining or a novel inspired by the Greek myth of Pandora, but set in the 1800s, which I love the concept of. I'm already super into Greek myth retellings, but when someone does something really interesting, like transpose it to another time period, which I also find interesting to read about, I get extra excited. So naturally this one made it to the list. And on my Kindle I have a new release, which is the third book in the Garou Reeve series by L.M. Drew. I'll pop a picture up here. And this is a paranormal shifter romance series, and it's, like I said, the third book, of which I've read the first two, and I've read both 1 and 2 within days of their release. I may have even read number 2 before its release, I think, because I had an ARC, and this is also an e-ARC, and it came out a few days ago, and I just need to read it ASAP. I cannot leave it any longer. I love these stories. They're so escapist, and I'm looking forward to returning to the world that L.M. Drew created. So those are all books I was super excited for coming out this year. Still am very excited to read them, and thought I would, you know, share my journey of reading them with you in this vlog. So yeah, let's make ourselves a hot drink and read this bad boy. Up having, and now I really need to do some chores around the house. I really need to clean the bathroom, so I double checked, and it turns out Daughter of the Moon Goddess is on Scribd on audiobook, so that's fantastic. I love when an audiobook is on Scribd, because I don't feel like I have to buy it outright, and I can listen along to it as I read intermittently. So my favourite way really to read a book is to be able to go between both formats, because I like to listen to audiobooks while I do things, and it means I can focus on the one book. So I have found my place on the audiobook on Scribd, and I'm going to listen to that while I do my chores, so I get to carry on with the book. But so far I'm really enjoying it. I'm currently part of the way through chapter 4, and I think it's going to make great company for cleaning. Oh, by the way, if you don't have a Scribd membership already, it's an audiobook and ebook borrowing platform with a really large selection. This is not sponsored, I'm just a die-hard fan, and I have a referral link if you'd like a 60-day free trial as opposed to a 30-day free trial, which is the standard. So I'll link my referral link down below if you want to use that and get 60 days for free, because imagine. Update. I am freshly showered and makeupified for the day. It's a big day. I've got multiple meetings. I just realised there's a cushion in the way. I've got multiple Zoom meetings today, and I'm feeling quite stressed and anxious, to be perfectly honest. I have a Zoom meeting with Pan Macmillan later today about a book that I'm editing, which is coming out next year, and that I'm not really stressed about. That I'm really excited about, and it'll actually be really nice to catch up about that, so that's fine. But I then at 4, so that's at 3, and then at 4 I have a Zoom with both my supervisors about my PhD, so it's like just a lot of meetings about very different things back to back, and I'm feeling quite stressed about my PhD right now. I also just have a lot of anxiety in general, and I think it's partly because of the time of year, so I've gone off on a tangent, but this is, my mind right now is very all over the place. This weekend is the anniversary, which feels like a weird word but to use, but it's the anniversary of learning my dad had cancer, if that makes sense. So it was May Day weekend in 2017 that I found out he had cancer, whereas obviously he passed away in November, as I'm sure many of you know. And as upsetting as I find the November date, there's something almost worse about this and the sort of physical impact on it has on me this time of year, this sort of week or the weeks around this weekend, because it's very much like the marker of the day that everything changed, and the sheer shock of it all. And yeah, I don't know, there's something about this time that has more of a physical impact on me and my mental health and my anxiety and my like just body than I would say even November does. November is sad, but this is like much more anxiety inducing, if that makes sense, reliving that sort of trauma and that memory in that time. But because of that, I'm just like very stressed and very anxious about everything as a result. However, I'm really enjoying my books, so that's really nice. On a side note, I'm really enjoying what I'm reading for this vlog, so it's nice to be picking up some books I'm excited for and enjoying them, and reading them with you and chatting about them. So this is a little bit of lightness and levity to that overarching anxiety that I'm experiencing right now. And I wanted to update you on where I was at, because as you probably saw from the vlog, I read a chunk of Daughter of the Moon Goddess, and I also started a second book. So in terms of Daughter of the Moon Goddess, I am really enjoying this. It is really beautifully written, and it's actually quite pacey. Like, things are moving at a faster pace than I was expecting, not in any way rushed at all. But if you aren't somebody who enjoys the kind of fantasy that doesn't move forward very often, that sits with itself quite a lot, then I think you'd really enjoy this, because it does kind of move at a relatively consistent pace, at least for me, which is fun. I'm enjoying that. I actually do quite enjoy slow paced stuff as well, but I know not everybody does, so I wanted to flag that up if you've been thinking about this. And I'm intrigued to see where it goes. Obviously I don't want to give away what's happening now, but we have very much reached a new point in the plot where, like I said, things are moving forward and new themes and characters are being introduced, particularly the prince of this immortal world. So all of the characters are immortal beings. This is in the sort of like immortal part of the world. It's not the earth where mortals live. It is some abstract other place where all the immortal beings live. And I mentioned before that the obviously mother of the main character is the moon goddess, and then we had the empress appear at one point, who was sort of the imprisoner of the moon goddess, and now we've met the prince, but he seems much more likable. So I'm wondering if there's going to be a budding romance between him and our protagonist. But yeah, I'm really enjoying this. I really enjoy the writing. I'm not actually familiar with this author at all and don't know if she's written anything else, so I'm going to have to do my research and find out if this is a debut or if there are other books by Su Lin Tan out there. I then started a book on my Kindle, which isn't in this room right now, but I started reading Trapped in Garu Reeve, which, like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, is the third in the Garu Reeve series by L.M. Drew, which are a series of paranormal romances. And it's set in this small town in America called Garu Reeve, where you learn there are which you learn is inhabited by predominantly wolf shifters. So most of the people that reside in this town can shapeshift into wolves. They're not werewolves, they're wolf shifters. And we follow in each book a new romance with a new woman who has found herself in Garu Reeve for one reason or another, because potentially her soulmate is there too. It is a fated mates trope in that sense, and they're such like pacey, fun, escape escapist reads, and I've even convinced my flatmate to start the series. Last night we had a little reading session together. We just chilled in the living room and read our books together, and I was talking to her about the series I was reading, the Gary Reeves series, and she decided to take out a Kindle Unlimited subscription, which is what I have and all of these books are on, in order to read the first 3. So she's going to be doing that, and I hope that she enjoys them as much as I do. And so yeah, that is where I'm at with my reading. Sofa, but tonight is my first night in the flat by myself. So Jill is away tonight and it means it's just me. Chris isn't here, so yeah, I'm chilling by myself, first night alone in the flat. 2 months in, it's like exactly 2 months since we moved in, and I am planning on the most chillaxed evening, basically. As you can see, I brought my quilt to the sofa, which isn't something I've done since we moved in here, but I'm going to curl up on the sofa with my quilt. I have my iron brew, I have a pizza, and I have my books. Aldi's Finest, by the way. Aldi's own brand, like, Finest pizza is amazing, by the way. So what I'm hoping is that maybe I'll finish Gary Reeve tonight, since I'm past 60% of the way, and if I could maybe get to between the 150 and 200 page mark on Daughter of the Moon Goddess, that would be super successful reading evening. But let's not lie, I may also watch an episode of The Mentalist, which is my current rewatch brainless show that I'm on, because I finished Criminal Minds. That was a roller coaster, and I felt super emotional finishing the entirety of Criminal Minds not long ago. It felt like I'd been watching it for a long time. So yeah, I moved on to The Mentalist, which is another show like Criminal Minds, which I watched when it originally aired, but don't think I ever watched the final seasons because I maybe had lost interest or was at a different place in my life when they aired. So I'm excited to follow through with this show as well and get to the final conclusion. But this is a reading vlog, not a TV vlog, so I'm gonna sit down, eat my pizza, maybe what. I did that. So, reading update. As you might have seen from my vlog clips yesterday, I actually started reading something new, which is volume or issue 7 of the Hellebore magazine. This is the Beltane 2022 Rituals issue, so yesterday was May Day, it was the 1st of May, Beltane, and this was the magazine in like honour of that, I guess. Hellebore is my absolute favourite magazine. It's like the first magazine in years I've really found myself consistently drawn to, if that makes sense. There are constantly articles in it that I want to read, and this is actually the first issue that I ever pre-ordered. So I pre-ordered it about a month ago and it arrived just before Beltane, so of course I figured I had to start reading it on Beltane or May Day, and I'm really enjoying it. So for that reason I definitely think it is considered a most anticipated release, as it's the first one I ever pre-ordered. I only discovered Hellebore last year but fell in love very quickly. It's a folk horror magazine which has a focus on the history of folk legend, lore, folk horror, etc. in Britain. So it will deal with like literature, it will deal with like legends, it will deal with folk practices, interesting historical sites, etc. And the first article in this one was really interesting because it was all about this book that came out in 1973 called Folklore, Myths and Legends of Britain. This is what the old cover looked like, which is now out of print, and I'm super jealous of anybody that owns a copy because I'd never heard of it before reading about it in Hellebore, and now I want one desperately. But because it's out of print, they're obviously quite expensive to buy second hand online, so maybe when I'm a little bit wealthier. But not now, because it just sounds fascinating and such an interesting sort of encyclopedic book about kind of folk legend and historical sites in Britain, which I think would still be very interesting today. It's a shame it's out of print. It was published by Reader's Digest. It'd be amazing if they brought it back, because I actually feel like there would be a real kind of appetite for it. I don't think that there wouldn't be a market for it, so that's a shame. But yeah, I did start that and I read the first few articles. There was one about the tradition of like folk dancing, both the kind of like myths that have arisen around traditional folk dancing in Britain, the ones that are sort of made up that really have no historical evidence, also some of the more problematic nature of like folk community dancing. I still have one article left to read, which I'm very excited about because it's about labyrinths. So I wonder if there's going to be much interaction with ancient Greece here. So although the magazine focuses on Britain, there was like an interest in classics and ancient Greece and ancient Rome in Britain, and obviously ancient Roman settlements in Britain. So there is sort of ways in which that has filtered into British folklore and British folk horror. So I'm excited to finish this off and let you know my thoughts. But overall, if that sounds interesting to you, definitely check out Hellebore. They're fantastic. I think you can buy all their past issues on their website as well. So I'm reading that. I also finished Trapped in Gary Reeve, which was great fun. Like, it was exactly what I hoped it would be. They are just incredibly fun books, basically. They are fun, spicy romances, and I really enjoy the way that this one touched on kind of therapy, because I'm someone who's a massive advocate of counselling and therapy, so it was really nice seeing that. Just leave it like that. Seeing that touched on in this book, and I really appreciated that. And they are shifter romances. I don't want to say much more about them because it's obviously the third book in the series, and although each book follows a different romance, it does like take place chronologically. So I would start with book one in the series, but this book did actually feel a little bit different. It was longer to start with than the previous two, and there was a real sort of intentional exploration of some of the kind of magic and other things surrounding the town, so kind of more background magic and explanations of like why the town is what it is, and kind of unfolding of that world building, which was really cool. I still think the couple in book two are my favourite, Scarlet and Marduk, but I really enjoyed getting to know the couple in this one, so I just love them. I cannot wait for book three. I know that L.M. Drew has at least been writing it, if not finished writing it, so looking forward to that, and really grateful that she sent me a review copy of Trapped in Gary Reeve. I will also say it majorly influenced me, because one of the things in Trapped in Gary Reeve that the female protagonist is into is pole fitness, and how she did pole and she loved it and she found a lot of enjoyment in that, and she made it sound so much fun in terms of like the strength building and the way it helped you lift your own body and do something a bit different whilst moving. And I've been looking for something for ages to do that's a little bit different from just running, that involves moving your body. And I used to really enjoy lifting weights years ago, but I don't always find the gym environment a very comfortable place to do that, for various different reasons. So I fell out of the habit, and then there was a pandemic after that. I'd already fallen out of the habit, but then the pandemic made it worse. So I haven't really found something that I love to do that moves my body and like brings me those endorphins and makes me feel good. So I was kind of inspired, and I ended up like at midnight booking myself into a pole fitness class. So I'm excited to try it. It should be really different. I've never done anything like it before. I've done like dance classes and step classes before, but nothing like this. And I love the idea of being able to like lift myself and exercise that kind of strength. So yeah, I both enjoyed this book, but I'm also very grateful that it inspired me to try something new. So that's super cool. I then also have been reading, of course, Daughter of the Moon Goddess. I've been switching between the physical copy and the audiobook, and I actually don't think I've updated where I am in the physical book based on the audiobook at the moment. However, it is just beautiful. Like, this book is stunning, it's gorgeously written. Like I said, the pacing is very consistent, and despite it being a 500-page book, it feels like it's moving quite quickly, but not too quickly, which is obviously really important. And I love the way that the author has created this realm of immortal beings who exist alongside the mortal world, and that they are the people we're focusing on rather than the mortals, or like one strong champion mortal against the immortals. Our protagonist is also an immortal, and I think that's really interesting, and I love the way she's created this whole world and infused it with this like Chinese folklore and Chinese myth and done something new and her own with it. I really enjoy it so far. Really good. I think the hype is definitely worth it with this one, but I'll update you when I'm a little bit further in. I'm 200 pages in, I should have said, around about, so I'm not quite halfway, but hoping to finish it in the next couple of days. Oh, and before I go, I did also want to mention that there should have been some clips before this of a little day trip that my partner and I took to Linlithgow, which is a town not far from Edinburgh in Scotland, and we popped into one of my favourite independent bookshops, which is far from the madding crowd, and I think there was some clips of that included in the vlog. So I just wanted to like clarify that, because obviously they're just like clips with music over the top, and you know, if you live in Scotland, if you're visiting Scotland and you're passing Linlithgow, definitely visit and check out Far From the Madding Crowd. There's also Linlithgow Palace, which is where Mary Queen of Scots was born. So yeah, I spent a lot of time in Lithgow as a child because my family, my grandmother lived in Bowness, which is really nearby, but Linlithgow is just gorgeous little town. So I had a really nice time at the weekend doing that, and it was a nice little escape and something outside of the city and something a little bit different to do. So yeah, that is my update. I'm gonna go now, I'm gonna go get on with work, and I will see you in the next clip. I finished the book, and it was good. It was a very good book. There are many plentiful reasons why it's good, and I'm trying to think how to explain them to you without spoiling the book. So I already mentioned that I love the world building in this book. I find it very immersive, and I think the pacing is really well done for this specific book. That is to say, I like faster paced books and I like slower paced books, but it's when the author does the pacing well and it feels intentional. So this felt intentional and well done, and not too fast and not too slow, and it wasn't lacking anything, and it wasn't sitting around doing nothing. So that was really great. And I actually have to say, I think this would be such a good first adult fantasy book if you're really into YA fantasy and you've been looking to read more adult fantasy. I love both YA and adult, but I know sometimes people can be intimidated by adult literature if they read a lot of YA and they have certain preconceptions about adult fantasy, thinking it's all going to be like George R. R. Martin's Game of Thrones. It's not. There's stuff like this out there which is just gorgeous and beautiful and unique and different, and give it a try, basically. I also love that the main motivation is the main character's relationship with her mother, her love and commitment to her mother, and her desire to help her mother. There are romantic subplots, which I really enjoyed, but they are just that. They're subplots. This isn't a romance novel. It's a novel about a young woman who is both sort of desperate to be reunited with her past and her family and her loved ones, but also sort of carve out a path for herself as her own person independently from that. And as part of that, there are, like I said, romantic subplots, but I thought they were really interestingly done and not necessarily as predictable as the tropes can be. I mean, I love a bit of predictability. None of this is a criticism, but if you're looking for something a little bit different that has a few twists that you don't expect, then this is a really good example of that, and I felt like it was very refreshing. Yeah, I really enjoyed the writing and really enjoyed the story and really enjoyed the protagonist. So I am sold. I'm definitely going to be carrying on and reading more. I also love this cover, and I'm so pleased when a book that you partially pick up on the cover ends up being so good, because now I can put a pride of place as a beautiful book inside and out, which is wonderful. So yeah, my anticipated releases have been on point. Well done me. I obviously know exactly the kind of book I like. It doesn't always work out like that, but it's really nice to know that everything I read in this vlog that I was looking forward to coming out, whether it be the non-fiction history magazine, the fast-paced fun paranormal romance, or the high adult fantasy novel, met what I wanted from them. They had a few kind of curveballs and surprises in there, but in all the best ways, and that I preempted my taste well enough. I know what I like, and obviously the reviews I've heard for all of these and the marketing I've heard for all of these pieces of literature has done them justice and been honest and true to me as a reader, because sometimes the reason you have something so highly anticipated on your list is because of something you've heard about it, and it turns out that that's not really what the book is, which is a bit of a disappointment. So I'm glad that all of these lived up to my expectations in all of those senses, and I would definitely recommend all of them. Naturally, with Hellebore you can jump in anywhere. With Trapped in Gary Reeve, head back to the beginning, read book 1, and with Daughter of the Moon Goddess, just jump straight in. So yeah, that pretty much sums up this reading vlog. I do have a lot of work to now go and do on my PhD, and I'm very stressed and I'm very anxious, and I probably mentioned that already in this video. So I'm going to upload this and hopefully chat with you all in the comments, and that's going to be a nice relief and escape. And that's my dishwasher if you can hear something noisy in the background. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this one. I'd love to hear your thoughts on any of these books, if you're interested in them, if you've read them, and also maybe what some of your most anticipated 2022 books have been, and if you've read them, whether they've lived up to that hype or not, because I think it's such an interesting thing to know whether books meet our expectations or not. So yeah, let me know in the comments down below, and until next time, happy reading. I'll see you all again soon. Bye.